Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and in today's video we're going to be going over something I've been asked about probably like 1,000 times on stream now. It's about the build, the Fire Whirlwind conversion build, and everyone's been asking me about it because it's like the most popular build in the game right now, and I have min-maxed it pretty high, but in this video I'm going to showcase my build, how I've min-maxed it so it does hundreds of millions of damage, and then I'm also going to provide a budget version that you can start with and then slowly start to upgrade. Enjoy the video. Okay, so we'll begin in game and I'll just do a little showcase of the build. Of course, most people have seen this. I'll show the DPS against the dummy. Once we get all our buffs up, we do quite easily break the dummy DPS. We do go above 99 million. This isn't even with a full single target setup, so it's kind of hard to know just about how much DPS I do. But as you can see, that's kind of what we have right now. I'll show you the damage though against the T8 boss, and maybe that'll give you a better idea. So there, as you can see, that's kind of the build in action. It does quite comfortably do all the T8 bosses. I've also done the Traveler on T8. I haven't yet done Uber Keegan, but it's probably very capable. It's just more of a mechanic intense fight, and it's not really much of a showcase, right? That's more down to player skill than anything. So in terms of the build, obviously it's a strength stacker on the high end. That's what you want to aim towards as you start scaling it. It's the best way to scale this build with all the fire damage and the physical damage you can get from your axes. We end up with just under 1,100 strength, which just for rare gear isn't too bad. 6.5k life, so we're incredibly tanky. We've got a lot of survivability and then a lot of armor too. 24,000, which gives us 33% physical damage mitigation. That's the basics of the build. We'll go straight on into the skills that we decided to take on the tree. We'll do this first for the talents. First of all, you're going to want to go into God of Might. God of Might is going to provide us with a lot of attack damage, a lot of life. But for the main talents, the important things are elimination and burnout. You can do either of these. Burnout just makes it so we do a bit more damage. You can swap to elimination towards the end of a boss encounter just to finish them off. I prefer burnout just for the more damage. It's better because we can get cool elsewhere, just a slightly lower version of it. Obviously we want the strength down here. This scales our strength, 1% chance to deal double damage, fire damage per 100 strength. And then on the final talent, we're going to get the damage ignores enemy fire resistance, which is the biggest part of the build. It's why we go to fire. We just completely get to avoid getting any elemental resistance penetration, and all our damage is just going through that. So that's what we do in God of Might. Secondly, we go with Warlord. Warlord is important as it gives us access to this point right here, which gives us 50% physical damage converted to fire damage. But the first part does, the 50% physical damage converted to fire damage is very important, and it's why we're in this tree. As for the main talent, I choose to go with Rock. It just makes it so we can get more tenacity blessings, and if you have a good end of confusion, that's going to scale it even better. Sweep's fine if you want to go sweep. Wildfire is also fine if you're scaling more low life stuff, as this build can do. There are many directions you can take this build. And then for clearing, you can go with True Flame. It will make you clear a little bit better. I choose to go with Focus Blow, just gives you that more single target. You want to stand right on top of bosses, and then you do 40% extra damage. It's fantastic. And then we go into Ranger. My tree is going to look a bit different than the one in the builder because of a certain item that I have. You can see I don't have these further nodes taken. That's because I'm getting further from somewhere else. But once again, this tree will be below. And then for the talents, the big talents, I'm trying out Gravity right now. Fluke is also okay, but I'm trying out Gravity just for a little bit. It seems okay, but I think Fluke might be better if you're on the lower end of crit. And then for the final point, we go with Impending. Next, we'll go into the skills that I'm using and what you would like to aim for. We're using Whirlwind in a 6-link. It's got Raging Slash, Channel Preparation, Guard, Bloodthirsty Slaughter, and Crit Damage Increase. There are some caveats to this. If you're on the lower end of gear where you don't have 4 minimum channel energy, you're going to want to swap out the Raging Slash. What this does is because we have 4 minimum channel energy, everything is a sweep and strike. I'll show you right here. If you see in the top left, we have the tooltip. It says 5 on top of that Whirlwind indicator. That means we're always doing a sweeping strike, as you can see from the description here, which means that Raging Slash actually turns out to be a 53% more multiplier to our damage. Now, if you don't have this, because it's quite expensive to get to, just drop this, run Precision Strike, which is right here. It's not too much of a damage decrease, about 6%. Next, we have Compound Source with Residues and Armor Infusion. Also Berserk. Berserk giving us a bit more damage and crit rating. Brilliant. And this is also our main form of restoration. This is obviously not as good against bosses because it's not going to refill, but there are things you can do to make it so it does. Leap attack. This leap attack is just OP in this game. You just move way too fast. When you pair it with quick mobility, you just zoom around. Periodic Burst makes it so our other skills, as well as Leap Attack, have increased attack and cast speed. Blinding, just an extra level of defense, and then I just had an extra link, so I threw in Elemental Fusion, just do a bit more damage. And then Bull's Rage. Now, if you can get a ring that makes you trigger Bull's Rage, in which case you'd want to swap this out. I don't really know what to, because I'm more than happy to just use it as is. I'm linked with Soul Focus, Mania. They both increase the effect of the Bull's Rage, and then cooldown reduction and increased duration to try and give us that 100% uptime. Then Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst is actually really important because it has a unique interaction with the ring that we're using. But basically, it's going to give us a ton more attack speed. We link it once again with Mania, which gives it more effect. Cost conversion, so it applies to life. And cooldown reduction, so we can have more uptime. And then for the auras, this is Mike 1-Up's aura setup. I kind of took it from the hero ranking, but I have since learned that the people that I took it from Mike, so credit to Mike for the aura setup. This is very clever, using a cast on crit with Scorch and Fixate, as well as sealed conversion to make this apply to your life. That's why I've got some reserved life. And Swiftness, just because you can fit it in, it's nice and cheap. And then the big damage ones is Charge Flames, Flame Imbue. This doesn't have to be precise, but get it if you can. And Acuteness Imbue. All this should be reservable. You're going to want about 480 energy. If you drop the leap attack, you only need 430, which is more than doable. So that's the skills. Now for kind of the big bit, the most important part obviously is the gear. I'll go over first what's kind of mandatory in the endgame version of the build, and then later on we'll go over what you can cut if you are on more of a budget. So starting off initially is going to be this 50% physical damage converted to fire damage. The reason that we're doing this is because it allows us to drop the link that converts physical damage to fire damage. So if you cannot get this mod, all you would do is put in the link into your Whirlwind instead of either the channeled energy or the raging slash that I showed previously. Also, I have fervor on my gloves. It's very rare that you're going to get this. I think it's a 1 in 712 to hit on a technique ember. You can buy a base that already has fervor and craft it up from there. Maybe that's the way to go, but this is very difficult to achieve. But it is very good because it saves us 6 passive points. And then we just have strength, erosion res, and life. The helmet, just a lot of life. You can't really get much on a helmet, so we went with T1 strength. The resistances we need, always erosion res, lightning res that we needed, life, percent life, AoE damage. Now we're going to the chest, and the biggest reason why our clear is so good in the T8s is because we have this explode mod. Enemies that you kill have a 30% chance to explode, dealing indirect fire damage equal to 10% of the enemy's maximum health. And of course we scale so much fire damage that this 10% suddenly becomes a lot more. 26% life. This was originally T1 life, but I missed on the ominous. It became explode instead of the life, so I just kept it. And then in the suffixes we have T1 strength, elemental resistance. Obviously I got quite lucky and I corroded it to be a higher tier. If you don't get a higher tier, you're just going to get more res somewhere else, which is absolutely fine. And then 8% strength is a very nice mod you can get on your chest. Ideally you'd have a T1, but T2 is fine, right? And then the amulet, which is very important, as I mentioned earlier, to get this channeled energy. Channeled energy, I've explained previously, it makes it so you're always sweeping strikes, and that allows you to run Raging Slash, which is a 53% more multiplier, as I mentioned. Then we just get stats, strength. You would ideally like a higher percent of injury buffer, but it's quite difficult to hit, as well as these two mods. So settle for whatever you get on the injury buffer, but this is really good. It makes you a lot tankier. Next, the Infinity is the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to the channeled energy. If you get the modifier Quick Ritual, you get this the fourth minimum channeled energy that we've seen. So this puts you up to 4, meaning that you're always going to sweeping strike. And then I just use the rest of it to cap out my resistances with this 53% fire res, 22% all res, and then fervor effect is just obviously really nice. Then on the boots, the most important mod on the boots is this regen while moving. Obviously the strength is nice, the life is nice, but this mod makes it so we're just constantly regenning while we whirlwind. It's really good. This physical damage as extra fire damage is insanely strong. It's so much more damage because we're scaling both of them so much. And then an important one that you're going to want to get is that you have a 20% chance to gain 1 stack of Tenacity Blessing on taking damage. Now the reason this is good is because it actually procs, if you look in the top right left there, if you look at the fist, when we use our Bloodthirsty, you can see it's gone up to 2. So this quite easily stays up, and obviously you're going to be taking damage in maps anyway, but you can see we've gone up to 4 stacks there. So that constantly ticks up, and we get to 9 very quickly. And then we also scale more max Tenacity Blessings with 2 on here. I got quite lucky with the corrosion. You could easily do it with 1. And then this is where I also get my agility blessings. There are other options for getting blessings. This was the best one I could find for me, so it's what I went with. Then the ring, we've got a life roll, melee damage, flat fizz, stats, and erosion res. Very standard. You can drop the stats if you need some resistances. Absolutely fine. Pretty standard ring. You can craft one of these up pretty easily. And then the weapons, obviously the big deal, it's all T1 on a Scarlet Axe, it's 760 DPS. I go for flat. You could go for the damage for life lost, but I just don't feel like it's as good because I don't want to use the hero trait that makes me lose health. I'll show the hero traits in a second. Then obviously T1 damage per 12 strength, ominous gear physical damage, attack crit rating or attack damage, strength, and then gear attack speed. I will have a link in the description of how to craft these axes if you would like to know. It's just a notepad Gyazo. It'll show you exactly what you need to do, but both of them are pretty much the same except this has lower gear attack speed. In a perfect world, you would corrode these so that the strength mod is 1 tier higher and then it's per 8 strength, which gives us a lot more damage, but obviously that's quite unlikely to hit. I'm yet to hit a good corrosion. I think I've made 5 axes at this point and I haven't made a good corrosion, so that's where we're at. That's the gear. Now finally we will go into the hero traits. Anger is how we start off, then we go Frenzy Furious, Rampaging, Boiling Anger, and the one that you can kind of mix up, you will do more single target damage if you use Uncontrolled Anger. Reverberation is absolutely fine, and one that I get asked more than anything is what do I link Burst to, and I link Hardened and Mark. This is because you're going to have a permanent uptime of what is 25% reduced damage almost, and also Mark, it doesn't make it so that your skills deal more damage, but you will crit more often. It makes it so the target is easier to crit. So that's why we do those. So now finally, obviously this video isn't just to show off my gear, it's also to help you guys build this character up yourself. So I did actually do something on stream yesterday where I crafted this build for less than 50 FEs, probably even way less than that. We didn't count every single ember, that would have been very tedious. But essentially we went through and we crafted some very basic gear. All of these are like 4 mod with 1 enchanted modifier. All of them have like strength, resistance. There's nothing fancy on these at all. We just accepted anything basically T3 or above, and we got some very, very basic gear. We did the same with the axes, anything T3 and above. Obviously we did need the strength mod. You can see here, I'm showing it on the screen. There's nothing fancy about this build. Obviously we did keep the End of Confusion because you should be able to get one of those very cheaply. So I'd consider this pretty much as budget as it gets. In terms of what we actually did for the gear, it's, as I say, all 4 mods, just with 1 enchanted piece of gear, and we'll see the damage right here. We actually did some maps in the T7 as well as Watchers, and it performs reasonably well, kills them in a decent amount of time. It basically feels like I'm doing a T8 on my main build, doing a T7 on this one, which is more than enough, right? It's going to get you going, and then you can farm up for your upgrades. And in terms of upgrades, we're going to go into that now, what you're going to want to upgrade in what order. So finally, in terms of if you were to start with the budget version of the build that I have shown here, here's what I would do in terms of upgrading it. I would upgrade the weapons first. I get a higher tier of the strength stacking mod, plus a higher tier of gear fizz, just to get you more baseline DPS. Then one of the biggest things is converting onto the fizz conversion gloves that I showed you. You can craft them with ruling embers. Then you're going to want to get your channeled energy sources, which is going to be your necklace. If you can only get it on the necklace because the belt is too expensive, which you very well might be, they're upwards of 200 FEs, then just get it on the neck and rock with 3. That'll be fine to get you started. Maybe you can get a corroded version with +2 channeled energy on the neck. You never know, right? And then 4, it's going to be the basic rares. Just upgrade those strength tier mods, get some more strength, get the reses a bit more capped out. Maybe go for them fancy mods on the boots with the extra fizz damage as fire. Something to look out for. And then finally I'd go for the explode chest, and after you've done all those 5, you can really start min-maxing, maybe trying to get the perfect weapons with full T1. But if you upgrade in this order, you're going to slowly see those T7s get faster and faster. You don't need to go up to T8s to start with. You don't need to be one-shotting the Traveler. You maybe on the complete budget setup, the Traveler is not going to be too easy, but if you just farm some T7s to get going, do your Watchers, and then convert whatever you farm into FEs, upgrade the build, you're going to be golden. I hope this helped. If you have any questions about the build, I will be live today, all day, on twitch.tv/MilkyBK. Come check it out, say hi, let me know what you thought of the video, and ask me any questions regarding the build. I hope this helped, guys. Bye-bye.